we have to remain mindful that the fact that the issue at hand is a very serious one.
To Not Just the Blues, a show designed to educate the people of our community about the everyday trauma that we experience on a daily basis. And once you've been informed, we want to help you in the healing process, the healing from the damage that has been done in the past. My name is Dr. Denise Hicks-Ray. I'm a clinical psychologist, board-certified expert in traumatic stress, and my very favorite role is facilitator of healing. We're here today to begin a journey of education and awareness. And so we're dedicated the next half hour to those of you who say, I just can't help myself. Addiction. It's defined as a compulsive need for and use of a substance. For some of us, that addiction is food. Just putting something in your mouth seems to satisfy you and make you feel better. For others, the addiction is to alcohol. A drink just seems to help you feel better. Maybe it's not a drink, but instead a pill that you pop whenever things get a little too stressful. Many of us use sex as an addiction, as a tool to make us feel wanted and needed for the moment. And then there are those of us who mask our pain behind our jobs. We become workaholics in order to avoid the real traumas in our lives. But no matter what the addiction may be, the reality is still the same. The addiction is being used to hide something else. It's time we take control and stop using a pill or a drink or sex to cure what's ailing us. It's time to take a good look at what's bringing us down and making us addicts to our pain. Now let me remind you that the pain didn't start here, which means the alcohol, the drugs, the sex, or whatever you choose to mask that pain isn't going to work, but for so long. Our first guest finally realized that, but not until she went through various addictions. Now that she's pinpointed the source of her pain, she's been able to let go of the addictions, and now she's helping others. Please welcome Charmaine Carter. Hi, Charmaine, how you doing? Doing good? I'm doing great. Thank you so very much for coming. We're going to start this journey with you telling us about the beginning of your addictive behavior. I'm going to take you back pretty far, I would imagine. And so we'd like to know, when did you start having such addictive behaviors in your life?
Well, you're right, it's very far back. I started having addictive behaviors back when I was probably about 12 or 13 years of age. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I was molested when I was a child. And by the time I was 12 or 13 years of age, I thought all I was good for was sex. So I was purposely getting involved with sexual relations with other people, with other men. Mm-hmm. I had sexual relations going on with family members. And it became to the point where I was obsessed with anything sexual. Videotapes, magazines, you know, toys, anything I could get my hands on.
And did that addiction subsequently lead to other addictive behaviors?
Oh yeah, after that, I went and started doing a lot of eating. I was addicted to, you know, food, especially chocolate. And finally, I went and started doing drugs. I started using crack cocaine, alcohol, cigarettes, anything I can get my hands on to try to I guess
Feel better.
Feel better, yeah, to stop the pain.
How long were you using crack cocaine?
Oh, I used crack cocaine for approximately 2 years. I got clean for 1 year and got back into involved with the sex again, you know, figured out how to stop the drugs, get straight, and I stopped, but was still doing sex because I didn't know I was addicted to sex. Still doing sex, still having multiple different partners, and every time I finished having sex with whoever the person was of that day, I would feel depressed and low self-esteem and go right back to drugs again.
So I find it fascinating that we'll use a terminology like getting clean, when in fact there are so many other behaviors that are going on there, and you really haven't stopped the process of addictive behaviors. And so the clean part, it sort of escapes me.
Yes.
People use that terminology that I'm getting clean, and so now I'm not really certain what that sort of leads to. But okay, so we're addicted to sex, we're addicted to drugs, alcohol, food. Well, some of us will have to join you in the chocolate part. But nonetheless, we have to work on even those types of addictions. Let's fast forward for a moment and talk about when that awakening came for you that this lifestyle was no longer healthy and you should do something to change.
That awakening came to the point where I was living in a crack house, if you want to call it. Basically a house where a gentleman had parties where he, you know, everyone came in with their own drugs, and he just facilitated a place where you could do drugs, and you wouldn't have to worry about the police coming in and raiding the house and everything. I was living in that house, prostituting myself. You know, for the drugs and for any money I could get.
Okay.
And I had lost everything. I lost my car, my job, my son, everything I had.
So this room and board didn't include like a healthy life. You say, okay, you're prostituting so you could sort of live and eat and pay the rent, what have you, because you need drugs in order to stay in the crack house.
Right.
And so this is already established so that people like you have a place to come where this particular lifestyle can be led on a daily basis.
Yes. The house was, I mean, in the morning we would sleep, you know, get ourselves together, rest up for the night, and then around about 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, people would start coming in from work. We would have sex with the people, we would do drugs. We stayed all night long up doing drugs with the people, and in the morning, they would leave, we would go back to sleep and start all over again.
So your shift started in the evening, unlike, when the other people's shift at work ended, yours began.
When it began.
And so from there, where did your life spiral to?
That was my bottom. What happened was the person that was in charge of the house let me stay there, and every day, every morning, he would wake up and say, "We're not going to do drugs anymore. We're going to get clean. We're going to be wonderful." And that's when the drugs would wear off, and he would throw all the paraphernalia away, say no one's ever coming over. And as soon as the sun set, and the first person came into the house, shift came, the first person came in the house, he'd be back to doing drugs again. Well, let's go get the stuff, and we'd be back all over again. And I realized I couldn't live with that kind of split personality. It was scary. If he didn't have his drugs, he was crazy.
So who was this person to you? Just a friend, someone you met?
Actually, I met him one night when I was out doing drugs, and I actually began walking the streets trying to sell myself for drugs. And he had picked me up and told me I was too nice and too pretty of a girl to be out in the street.
So during this time of this type of behavior, there is no thoughts in your mind of safety, of sexually transmitted drugs. These things don't ever occur to you. This is just a life, and this is just how it is. Is that how that went?
Exactly. It was just, my mindset was just on the drugs. It wasn't about my health or my safety or even about my son, unfortunately. It was just all about getting my next fix.
So you had a son during this period of time?
I had a son before I started doing drugs. What happened was when I was on drugs, I got to the point where I couldn't think straight, that I couldn't keep him anymore. And my mother actually took my son from me.
This seems to be like the case with most addictive behaviors, that someone else normally intervenes on the responsibility part of your lives. And so I know that we're just touching the parameters of this topic. And Charmaine, I want to thank you for sharing your story. It's truly set the stage for our next guest, who actually travels around the country trying to help women who are addicted to sex, drugs, and violence. You'll meet him when we come back.
The everyday stressors in life can cause emotional trauma, and Trauma Services Associates is there to help. TSA is a behavioral health organization designed specifically for the African American community. Trauma Services Associates provides empowerment through education and awareness. Trauma Services Associates is there to help heal. For more information on TSA, call 1-800-466-4804. Trauma Services Associates, help and healing is on the way.
Where can you find fish tacos, sweet potato cheesecake, and salmon burgers? It's all right here at Snapper's Fish and Fries. It's the only place in Charlotte where you can place an order for these tasty dishes and get them in record time. Snapper's Fish and Fries is conveniently located in the Gold Hill Pavilion on North Tryon Street and is open Monday through Saturday. So the next time you want to grab something good but quick, head to Snapper's Fish and Fries. One bite and you're hooked.
Welcome back to Not Just the Blues. And as we continue our discussion on addiction, we're joined now by David Jones, who specializes in conflict resolution. And David, you say addictions are at the source of many conflicts. Is that right?
I think so. From what I've seen in my work in the United States and abroad, in places like Russia, Europe, it looks like people often are struggling with internal conflict, sometimes societal, communal types of problems that can pressure them into seeking out some relief from a substance or behavior.
And so, is it safe to say that when you're a conflict resolution expert, and so when you're in there resolving these conflicts, does it come up often, or how often does it come up, I should ask, the issue of masking in substances or any addictive behaviors?
Okay, I'm not only a conflict resolution professional, I'm also a substance abuse professional too.
Okay.
I have two different hats I wear. And how often do you see substance abuse in, say, a violent relationship in a home? Mm-hmm. We know that typically has a precipitating role in, say, violence, especially violence against women from men who have been either under the influence of alcohol or other drugs, either because they've lost their faculties or because they may actually just be out of their drug of choice and trying to obtain it and using, coercion and force.
So with the women that you're talking about, that you travel around the United States and you deal with, give us some stats on the ratio of number of women who are in some sort of addictive behavior, and I know that number will probably be very large, versus the women who are going through some other types of traumas that they are sort of masking in different ways.
So we're talking, first, if I have you correct, we're talking about the substance abusing types
exactly.
of behaviors as opposed to other types of compulsive types of behaviors. Ooh, that's a very difficult number to pull out of my head without a statistical format there. But I would say that when you're looking at substance abuse, you're looking at women, you're probably looking at maybe 70–80% of the women who present for any kind of chemical dependency disorder having some sort of underlying issue there.
One of the reasons that I ask you about the statistical data is because we seem to do an awful lot of relying on statistical data, but I find that there is not adequate information as it relates to African American women, most specifically. So it would be a very difficult question to answer if the data doesn't exist.
Yes.
Okay. And so the reason I've started to move in that direction is because here in this format, we want to begin to get that data, to begin to gather that data so that we do a better job of understanding what the numbers are out there and who is actually suffering as a result of these addictive behaviors and not getting help because they are not aware that either the people need the help or that the numbers are as great as they are.
Dr. Hickser, I think that's a very insightful analysis right there. You're right, there has not been a lot of outcome data, research studies done on African American women, women of color in general. Young women, single parent households, those are not the people who are most apt to get focused on. Now, don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of emphasis placed upon women and children to stop women from using substances and endangering, the fetus. But in terms of what are some of the underlying reasons why, women are engaging in substance abuse and compulsive disorder types of behavior, I don't think that we really went to the population and asked them.
Exactly.
There's been a lot of saying this is what it looks like and this is what we'll do, but there hasn't been a lot of going to the population and asking them, really what's going on, having this kind of dialogue like you just had.
Well, I dare to venture that there is no data that would tell us how many of the Miss Carters of the nation have been into those types of situations where they're in a crack house, this is where they live, the drug of choice is made available to them through the promiscuous behavior, which subsequently leads to other addictive behaviors. And so we need that data. We need to begin to do a better job of taking a look at where the people are and then going in there and asking them what's going on. I
agree. I think that most of your compulsive disorders, substance abuse, addictions, they're multifaceted. They're not just the substance that's being used. Many people are masking pain.
Exactly.
And that's just exactly why I'm happy that you have this show. And where African Americans don't talk about the pains as well, say, as your previous guest did, child abuse, sexual abuse in the family, in the community, rapes, these kind of things are just horrendous traumas to bear on, say, a young person, like anyone, and not to have professional or culturally specific help leaves them with no other way other than to self-medicate or to act out. We often see
Exactly,
that.
and we also don't want to leave out the fact that the information needs to be linguistically relevant. Because you can write a lot of information out there, but if people don't understand it, it's not written in their language, then we have the same problems existing that we do right this very moment. We again, always will just begin to touch the basis of what's going on here. And when we come back, we'll hear from you, our studio audience. So get your questions ready, and we'll be right back.
Whether it's a training video, a marketing video, or a television program, you expect quality. Kinloch Productions exceeds those expectations and delivers excellence. Kinloch Productions is a full-service video production company recognized both nationally and internationally for its work. We involve our clients in every step of the process, making sure you get the product and service you deserve. Kinloch Productions. Let us put our imagination to work for you.
Good books, soothing oils, and relaxing incense. It's all here at Sister to Sister. African art, ethnic clothing, and Afrocentric cards. Find it here at Sister to Sister. Jewelry, health products, and handbags. What you need is at Sister to Sister. For that one place that takes care of the mind, body, and spirit, visit Sister to Sister, located in Salisbury at 428 East Fisher Street, or visit us online. We're ready to take care of you.
And we're back with Not Just the Blues and continuing our discussion on addictions. Thus far, we just sort of listened to our guest, Charmaine Carter, and certainly our expert over here on addictions, and we want to now hear from you and what you think about what you've heard. We have a question from our audience right over here to my right.
Yes, my name is Clendon. I'm a member of a psychosocial rehab where we have like 80 clients. And as far as addictions, I'm a recovering addict myself. I have 6 years clean. My question is to the doctor, the gentleman there. I have a pretty good ratio of some people who go through addictions as far as cocaine, marijuana. As far as in foreign countries, I was going to ask him, what is the ratio there? Is it greater there than it is probably perhaps here in the United States, as far as the number of people addicted in different countries?
Well, you know, chemical dependency and addiction are pandemic around the world. I got a lot of experience in the former Soviet Union and in Malaysia looking at substance abuse. And it's always a phenomenon that happens amongst the young, primarily. And so, I don't know the exact numbers, but I would just say this. Just think about the number of people under 25 on the planet. And then think about youth culture. And then think about what youth do to have fun in this culture. Drinking, drugging, sex. And so this is emulated around the world. Everybody wants to emulate Tupac, Ice Cube. Okay, so substance abuse is rampant around the world and growing.
Okay. And right here, sir.
First, I'd like to compliment Charmaine for sharing her story with us. I think that's very key. And my question to Dr. Hicks and to the gentleman is, you know, oftentimes in our community, I think he's very on point when he says we don't discuss the problems that lead to addiction, you know, such as the child abuse or other issues. How do we get that out front and in discussion just at the dinner table? A lot of times at family gatherings, somebody will say, you know, Pookie has an issue. But nobody will say Pookie's a crackhead. You know, so how do we deal with that and get people to talk about that?
I believe that one of the ways that we're dealing with it is right here, right now. We're bringing it to the people through mediums that they can recognize and identify. And we're no longer waiting for the people to come to us. We're now taking this message of education and awareness out to the community, and we have to begin to establish a safety net. A safety net that would allow people to now be able to talk about the things that are painful. And until we establish that safety net, people will continue to keep their secrets, and they will continue to perpetuate that pain from one generation to the next. Sir, we have another question.
Again, thank you, Dr. Hicks, for this program. My first question is directed to Charmaine Carter. You stated earlier that you were about 12 years of age when you were assaulted.
No, I was actually raped when I was about 6 years of age by the babysitter.
Well, here's my question. Earlier in your life, did you have a father and a mother figure there present within your family? And if not, do you believe that it would have helped you had there been both?
My mother is a very strong woman, and my father left when I was about 5. And actually, that was the main reason why I clung very much to the babysitter, because he was, you know, older person, teenager, and he reminded me of my father. He told me I was pretty, and I was cute, and all this other stuff. So when he started doing inappropriate things, I didn't realize what was going on.
Also, after going through what you have experienced thus far, Has there been a time when you have received any type of counseling to help you to understand what you have experienced thus far?
No, unfortunately, I've tried to go to a psychiatrist. Let me try to explain. My family does not believe that we African Americans should see a psychiatrist.
Amen.
They believe that if you have a problem, you talk to the family. The problem is, half of my problem was the family. I mean, I had family members who were molesting me, family members who were alcoholics and drug addicts, you know, and as you said before, a lot of them don't say, you know, Uncle Bob has a problem, you know. We don't say Uncle Bob is a drug addict. We say Uncle Bob just likes to drink a lot, you know. You know how he gets when he has too many drinks. And, you know, this kind of thing kept going on. So when I was telling my mom I needed to talk to someone, she was like, well, that's her past, child, don't worry about it. That's behind you. Just put it away and keep on going. So when I actually when I was old enough to go to a psychiatrist and started talking to a psychiatrist, the whole family was like, you're the black sheep of the family. Until you stop seeing a psychiatrist, we don't want to talk to you. So under pressure, I stopped seeing a psychiatrist.
We must, as a community, do a better job of dispelling the myths of it is a sign of weakness to ask for help, and better explain that it is that strength in being able to say, I need help. Because we sort of use these analogies when we're convenient. It's sort of like Bible verses, sir. We use analogies when they're convenient for us. It takes a village to raise a kid, but I'm not letting the village have my kid. We have to begin to acknowledge the fact that we, under the Creator's guidance, are not capable of doing all of these tasks by ourselves. And we need to partner, and we need to do it from a team effort, and we need to make sure that that message starts to get out, that I am concerned about you, as you should be concerned about me. And if I look out for your gifts and your betterment, then I can only be better as a result of it. As always, we are out of time, and we've touched some key points in today's show. And we are just at the brink of this explosion in our journey towards healing. I want to thank my guests, Charmaine Carter and David Jones, for joining me today and sharing their stories. And thanks to our studio audience for taking part in today's discussion. And remember, it's not just the blues.